Howdy folks, today we're going to go over Deno. Deno 1.0 was just released recently and there's a lot of talk about it right now, so I figure it's a good time to do a video. According to the documentation, Deno is a JavaScript TypeScript runtime with secure defaults and a great developer experience. Deno is very similar to NodeJS, and actually Deno was written by the same person that wrote NodeJS, Ryan Dahl. And the reason he wrote it, there's a few different reasons, but some of the highlights are it's secure by default, where Node.js was not. Supports TypeScript out of the box, which is cool. Single executable. It has a few built-in things like testing and formatting as well. And one thing to note is this talk about like, is Deno going to replace Node.js and such? It's not. Not for a very, very long time. Like it could be decades. Think of like jQuery is, React is going to replace jQuery. Well, it's not. jQuery is still around. There are many production environments. I have multiple production environments right now on Node, and I have no plans to port those over to Deno or anything like that. Like those are going to be running for 5, 10, 15 years. So Node.js is not going anywhere. If you want to use Deno, you can use Deno. It's still early on. Like if I was going to write a new project right now, I still probably would use Node.js or Python. It just depends on what tool set is best. But if I just needed a one-off script, maybe I would use Deno right now. If it fits the needs that I have, I could use Deno. But you're not going to rewrite all your existing applications in Deno right now, and Node is not going anywhere. So I want to preface this discussion about that. All right. So let's go into a little bit more. I'm just going to go through some of the docs, and then I'll give some examples towards the end of some of the code and different things like that. So it's secure by default. So you can't just include a package and that package just start reading your file system like Node does. So with Node, you're gonna let's say you import Moment.js or something, and this is kind of not a best example, but if you import Moment and it wanted to read the file system, like your local computer file system, in Node.js, it can just do that at will and not even tell you about it. Whereas in Deno, if it wanted to do that, you would have to specifically specify that you want to allow Moment to read your file system. So that's one big thing I take away from Deno that's pretty awesome, that you at least know when a script is trying to access your file system, and you have to grant it specific permissions to do that. Also, it has to, if you want to fetch from the network, you have to allow that as well, which is pretty cool. That's one thing I definitely love about Deno. It's browser compatible. Theoretically, a lot of your Deno scripts could work in the browser if you needed to. It has a lot of built-in web APIs like fetch as well, where Node doesn't have fetch. You have to import like a third-party module like fetch or request. But Deno you can just call fetch like you do in the browser, which is nice. It's provided built-in tooling like unit testing, code formatting, linting. So if you like those things, you can use that. It's already built in. I think the testing built-in testing is awesome. So that's pretty cool. Same thing with linting. All right, perfect. So let's compare it to Node.js a little bit. One big note that people could be confused about is Deno does not use NPM or Yarn. So there's no package manager, which is interesting. So everything is referenced by URLs. So look at here. So you're requiring the log module here. So there's no importing, there's no npm install, there's no nothing like that. Everything is imported based on the URL, which is kind of cool, because now you don't have to worry about a third dependency of npm or Yarn or a package manager like npm. It's all you just specify a path when you want to import a module. It could be a GitHub path, it could be your own personal path, it could just be a regular file path on your computer. It doesn't matter. You just import it through a URL and not through a package that you installed. So let's look at that real quick. So I have an example somewhere here. So like I have a testing module here, or here's a dependency. I'll go over this code in just a second. But so I'm importing the assert module from Deno itself right here, and you see how that's a URL right there. If I was to do that in Node, I would have to do like const equals to require. I'm not sure if this is exact, but I think it's just assert. So you'd have to do it that way. So the module the assert module is included in Node, but in Deno you do everything based on the URL. So that's going like everything's referenced by URLs. So that means there's no package JSON either. So let's go back to Node, or go to our file editor. So in Node, you would have, this is a typical Node project here in this directory. So you'd have Node modules, package lock, package JSON. So I've included Moment. I npm installed Moment. So I have this package lock, package JSON. So in Deno, there is no npm install of Moment or anything like that. You would always reference it by that URL here. The URL would be whatever path you do. Let's say if Moment had a path we could use, it would just be like foobar/moment as a URL or something like that. Yeah, so there's going to be no node modules directory either in Deno, because you're not installing anything again. You're always referencing it from a URL. So there is no node modules directory. There's no package lock. There is a different lock file that you can use. I will go over that later, or in a different video maybe. But so this is your typical Node project. So you're not going to have the package lock or package JSON or Node modules in a Deno project. Your Deno project might have like just a mod file. As like, think of your mod file as maybe your index file, possibly, which is your entry point of everything. And you have a dependency file, which I will get to in just a sec. And then maybe a test file or something like that. This is just very bare bones. But you can see there's no package lock file. There's no node modules. There's no package JSON file or anything like that. So that's a big difference between Deno and Node right there. That could be things that I can see confuse people a little bit. All right, doesn't require permissions. Already went over that. Dies on uncaught errors. And here's another key point as well, is when you do fetch a module from, like, say here, it caches that directory in a cache directory, or it caches the contents of that file in a cache directory. So it only goes and gets that, goes to that URL once, and then it caches all that file or that code. So it's not fetching over the network every single time, just the first time, and then it's cached on your computer. If you needed to do that, if you needed to get the latest, or you're working on your own little module maybe, you can use the reload flag when you do the run. So just keep in mind that you're not going over the network every time you need to import something. It just does it the first time and grabs the code. All right, so those are some of the key features or differences. So let's go in and let's start doing. Let's work with it. Let's see what happens. So the first thing we need to do is we need to install it. So if you're on Linux or Mac, you can just install it through curl here. If you're on Windows or anything like that, you can look to install differently. So let's do that now. So I'm just going to paste that. It'll install in just a second. Perfect. So now we have Deno installed. Now we can just do, if we want, we can just, let's do Deno-S version to see what we have. And we're on Deno 1.0, V8 8.4, and TypeScript 3.9. So we have Deno installed. So awesome. So right now, if we want, we can do, just like Node, you can do Deno, and it puts you in a little REPL. So you do like 1 + 1, equals 2, doing things like that. So that's another thing that it has, just like Python or Node. So let's Control D to get out of that. All right, so we have Deno installed. So let's go to, I'm not going to go to set up an environment. I'll go over VS Code in just a sec though. So basically, if you want to run a program, you can actually run a program that's over the network that's stored somewhere else and not on your computer, which is kind of cool. So there's already, at this URL, there's already a program written in Deno that we can just run. So let's run that now. Let's just copy and paste and run that. And this should just, based on what it says, we don't know what's in that code technically. We have no clue what is in this code right now. So it says welcome to Deno. So that's good. So like, who knows what is executing that? But if you were to actually, if that code was doing something malicious to your file system, it wouldn't run unless you explicitly gave it permissions. So let's go down here, and here's an example that does just a fetch. Just fetches a URL, like a common task that's going to happen all the time. And you notice it's using fetch right here. So that's installed, that's provided by Deno by default. It's part of the web API. So we can just use fetch just like we use the regular browser fetch. But getting into permissions here, so let's run this right here. And I think this will give us an error when we run it. Yeah, so you see how it says, like, we have no clue what this is doing. It does give us the code right here. So it's doing this, but we don't technically know unless we go to this URL here in the browser. But we don't know what that's doing. But by default, Deno is secure. So it's not going to allow scripts to just start executing things at will. So it says permission denied, network access to example.com will not run. So, okay, so we know that this is trying to make an external request. So if we want to allow that, and we're like, okay, that's good. So then if we want to allow that globally allow all network access to this script, we can just do allow net, and that's going to provide access to, if we want to go to example.com or google.com or bing.com or anything like that, it will allow this script to do that. So perfect. So all this script did was fetched a URL that we gave it here, which is example.com, and gave us the contents. But now, since we allowed it permissions to the network, it ran. So maybe we only want to give it permissions to example.com and not google.com. How would we do that? So it makes it easy. So we can give it to the host of just example.com. So we can let's do allow net google.com. This shouldn't work. See, all right, you see how it gave permission denied again? All right, so we're only allowing network access to google.com right now. So let's change that to example.com. Perfect, so now it gave it access to example.com. So let's change this to google.com again. So we're passing in the parameter here. So this is our script that we're running, Deno run, and then our script, and then we're passing in this as an argument. So this is the argument here, the URL. So let's do Google. So it should say permission denied again. So it does. So now let's allow google.com. And that did not work. Why did that not work? Why did that not work? Allow net google.com. What am I missing? Of course that doesn't work. What am I missing? Of course that doesn't work, so let's go back to example.com. So that works. It's doing the host. Allow net looks at the host. So yeah, so you'll see the program returns an error message regarding network access. So allow net example.com, example.com. What am I missing? Google.com. Yeah, so that should work. Okay, that works. But why is that not working? What am I missing? Alright, so that should be fine. We got that. So what am I missing? Deno-run, allow net, google.com. I think google.com is the subdomain, might be different or something. Let's just try Bing. Oh, www. Ah, okay, that's what I need. No? There we go. Okay, so I just needed the www in there. Okay, so poor mistake on my part, but so you needed to provide the www there. So yeah, depending on what you need, it could be different. All right, so we've got that. Perfect. So now, same thing with reading a file. So there's allow network. So reading a file, we also need to do this as well. So I'm not going to copy the etc password because you can be able to see my stuff. So let's clear this out. So let's do. So this program here is going to read a file that we pass to it, which is here. And you'll see the allow read will have to give us permission. So let's say this is an external package that you install. It won't be able to execute on your system by default. So let's just do, let's just read a file of Deno test. So you see it says read access not allowed. So if this was a third-party package and we just wanted to use it, it wouldn't work. It would tell us that this package is doing something to our file system. And you would have to, maybe look at the code or do what you want, but it won't be able to execute unless you specifically grant it permission to read your file system. So if we want to give all access to our entire file system, we can do allow read, just like we did with the allow net. We can do allow read, and now this prints out the contents of the file. If we wanted to give allow read to just this file, we can do that. So, so I think the path here is deno/test.ts. So we can do that. So if we want to do let's just say we give it to node directory or something, this should be permission denied. So we're just saying, all right, only give permission to the node directory. Well, this script wants permission to deno/test.ts file. Well, we didn't give it permission to that, so it can't read from that. So that's how, and if you wanted, and same thing with writing to files in your system, it won't allow writing files to the system unless you use the allow write command as well. And they work the same way. So you can say allow write globally or some path. All right. So I won't go over that. So we got first steps and then permissions. We just kind of went over permissions as well. TypeScript by default. I'm not going to go over how TypeScript works, but you can use all of TypeScript that you want. It's installed by default. As you can see, we've named some of the files I have here are .ts. Perfect. All right, so there's testing as well. Testing by default is included, so you can do deno.test. And then there is some debugging and a formatter. So if you want to format your code, think of like the prettier program. You can do, instead of prettier, you can use Deno format, and it'll format your files as well. There's a bundler, debugger, and different things like that. So we've ran external files. So let's start by running our own Deno files that we have. So I've got a few things set up. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah, don't save. All right, so I've got a couple example programs. So here I have a file watcher here that I just wrote. I was playing around with to see the speed of the file watcher, so I just wrote that. So you can see here that we have deno.cwd. So deno is a global variable. So anything that is not a web API gets put in the global Deno namespace. So if we wanted to get current working directory, we can do deno.cwd. And then, so if we wanted, there's a file watcher. So there's docs on all this, but there's a file watcher, just like Node's file watcher. I can't remember the exact command for that. So we're just getting the file watcher, so then it returns a promise. So then we're going to loop through the watcher. So we have this program. So let's cd to the Deno directory we have here. All right, so we have our files there. So let's run this program. So let's run the file watcher. And what we can do is we're looking at the current working directory. We're going to watch files in the current working directory from where we run this. So we'll be watching if any of these files change. So let's run deno run. So you do deno run, and then the path to the file. So we'll do mod.ts. So let's run that. And look, we get a permission denied. So current working directory is actually reading our file system. So Deno's not going to allow us to do that. So we have to specifically allow Deno to read our file system again. So let's do that. And you need to put the commands after the run and after the run command before your actual script. So let's allow read. So we're going to say allow read to our entire file system. So it's running right now. So now it's just waiting for a file change. So let's go to foo.ts and just make a change, and we should. So we're console logging. So here we're just basically waiting for a file change here. Like this is just waiting. So let's just put a comment there and save. Look, so now it's saying, it's logging that this file has changed, and it's what type, modify, access, and then the path of the file. So perfect. So that's what that's doing. So now we have just a basic file watcher built in Deno, which is cool. So let's comment that out. Let's kill it out. Let's run a shell command in Deno. So here we're doing deno.run with a command of just we're going to echo out foo, and then we're going to await the status. So sometimes if you're in Node, you're going to use the exec command. In Deno, we're going to use the run command. So let's do that now. Deno run mod.ts. Oh, permission denied. Access to a subprocess. So to actually run the command, we have to specifically grant access to this program to run the command. And as you can see, like this is secure by default. Like every time we run it, it's not allowing us to run it the first time. We have to specifically give permission. So like external programs can't just like start siphoning or set up our computer to start mining cryptocurrency or something. So we would have to specifically grant permission to an external program to read our file system and run commands. So we can do, this one is allow run. So now it ran, so echoed foo. Perfect. So we have that, so we ran shell script, good. All right, So next thing, let's go over testing. So just like if you use Jest or something like that, Deno has built-in testing, which is pretty cool. And we'll also go over dependencies on how you import. Because let's go to a test file. So you might be thinking like, all right, you have to import a bunch of URLs. So let me just copy this. So normally you might do, const, or not const, import cert equals. So that works just fine. And you see how we import? You could leave this off like that, and that's going to import the latest version, or basically the master branch of a cert equals. But we're gonna scope it to an actual version. So you want to do that always, to the latest version, because else you're just always going to be grabbing the latest, which you don't want to do. You want to make sure it changes to the version, else you could get some unexpected changes. All right, so you can see like what if we had like 100 test files, and we have to import this every time? Well, that's not good. Like, because what if maybe one thing changes and you need to, like, I don't know, the URL changes or something, or you rework your code or something. You don't want to have to change this import in all of these files. So what you can do is you can add a dependency file, and this is kind of like the standard on what Deno suggests. So let's go to, where is it in here? Yeah, so here it actually says, seems unwidely to import URLs everywhere. So what it suggests is to create a dependency file, deps.ts, which we have, to actually add that import here. So the URL. So then what we can do is we can just import this deps.ts file wherever we need it. So that's what we did here. So let's remove this. So now we can just import a cert equals from deps.ts. So we're just importing this. Ignore the syntax highlighting right now. I don't have the correct extensions installed. Let's go back to our test file. All right, so Deno has a test method we can call. So let's just deno.test, just like it works with Jest or Mocha or Jasmine or any type of other testing library. And so if we want to just run a test on this, we can just do deno test. And by default, if you just do deno test without any other parameters, it's going to run every test that's in the current directory that you're in. So we're asserting equals of 52 and 2. And of course that fails. So let's look, running test, it failed. So we could also do deno test.ts, which will be just that file. So if you have 100 files and you only want to run it on one test, you can do that like this. Same result. So let's make this test pass. And boom, it passes. So ran one test, one passed, 0 failed, 0 ignored. I haven't tried this out. I wonder if you can do like X test or something, because I see the ignored, but how do you actually ignore? Can't do that. I'm not sure how you do the X. How you ignore a test like you do in Mocha or Jest or something. It doesn't really. I don't think it shows it in the docs, but that's something you can probably do. I don't see it in the docs right now, or maybe I'm missing something. So that's cool. So it's got a built-in test runner. If you wanted to format your code, you can also do that as well. Deno-format. I don't use format as much, but if you would like, you can do it. Let's just do just this file. So we'll do test.that. Like I use tabs for everything. Let me just convert this indentation to tabs. So it's in tabs right now. So if you do format, I think Deno by default does spaces for formatting like that. So let's just do test.ts. Boom. See now it converted it to spaces. So that's that. And there's a few more things in here if you want to read about them. But this is just a general guide of going over Deno and everything. So yeah, if you have any questions about it, just let me know.